Okay. I don't know anything about this young man, but if he is a Christian, he did well. If he's a Christ follower, he did well. If he is not, he still, stid. That's a new word, stid. Anyway, he still did well because he borrowed something from me, and a lot of people has borrowed things from me, and a lot of people don't bring things back. And sometimes if they bring it back, it's broke, and they never offer to replace it. If you're going to be a Christ follower and you borrow something, it's your responsibility to take care of it. And if it gets broke in your possession, if it's, now you're going to have to weigh things out here. Was it halfway broke when you got it? Or was it getting pretty close to being broke when you got it? Did it break because of just being wore out? But even then, if it was just because it was wore out, at least you can do is offer to pay for part of it. But if you broke it yourself, then you want to have that integrity to fix it. And for the most part, you borrow something, you want to be sure to take it back because it's the right thing to do. And this young man, he borrowed a heat lamp from me because we had a cold front come in and he needed to keep his little ducklings alive, keep them warm. And I don't know this young man, so I really wasn't expecting to get it back, but I got it back and more. And he brought it back, 2.5 weeks or whatever it was. And he brought back a dish of food, like a spaghetti dinner, and chocolate chip cookies to go with it, and said, "This is your pay for letting me borrow this." I'm thinking, wow, that is a very kind thing to do, because I was not expecting it. Actually, I wasn't even expecting it to show back up. I'm glad it did. But how often do a Christian person, or someone that claims to be a Christian, borrow something and they never return it? Or if they do return it, it's like a year later, and they were done with it, within a couple weeks from borrowing it. What kind of integrity does that show for a Christian person? I would really start to question if they were truly a Christian or if they're just putting on a show. I mean, they can be involved in the church, they can be in the choir, they can be in the nursery, they could be doing all kinds of stuff for the church. But if you're going to borrow something and then don't return it, or you return it, return it broke, and don't offer to help pay for it if it was, wore out, you want to pay for at least half of it because you did borrow it and it happened to break in your possession. Now the person that loaned it to you, they need to think also, well, it was pretty wore out, so it's not your fault type thing. So let's look at the integrity on both sides. But what would Jesus do? What would his disciples do in a case like that? Now, if we're going to be Christ followers, we need to set that example. We borrow something, we return it. And if we can, let's do something nice, like this young man did. I did not expect that. It was like, wow, do something nice. And then we can turn that around a little bit. Someone whose spouse just passed away. Now I know the class that I was in, and the only reason why I left that class is because I became head usher for both services, and that took my time away from going to class. But in that class, if someone was to pass away, or we had an elder, and they didn't have to be in our class, but we would get together and either put money into a pot to help pay for like food, or like one gentleman needed a roof done, so they went and did that roof, and I couldn't make it. I wanted to be there, but I couldn't make that one. So always doing something, but I don't know if it's maybe because I wasn't in that class no more, and my wife was in choir, but she was still going to, no, she even stopped going to the class because she went to choir, and then she stayed in the service itself. Because I'd get done ushering, then I'd go sit down after all the count and all that stuff. So when my wife passed, no one brought me any food to make sure I was eating. 3 weeks I was eating peanut butter and crackers because I didn't feel like cooking. So what was that showing me of that church? Did something change? Why all of a sudden was I the outcast? I mean, that's how I felt. I felt like an outcast. And it wasn't just that. There were several things that popped up. I found out later a gentleman was wanting to have a car wash for me because he knew, actually it's a gentleman I spent time with, not worshiping with, but well, we worship some. But he'd call me in the middle of the night because he needed somebody to mentor him. So I was, his mentor. But he knew that we didn't have life insurance, we didn't have health insurance. So he was wanting to do a car wash to help pay for the funeral. So he went and talked to the pastor, and the pastor's fairly new, but not that new, several months. But I don't know, because I was only going at that time every other week, and my wife was still teaching. That's what it was. She was teaching kindergarten class every other week, because every other weekend we was gone helping her sister, and that was a total mess. But the pastor told this young man that wanted to help, let him go get his own people to help him. Well, that teed off this guy, because he goes, we are his people. He goes to this church. He is a member of this church. We are his people. Well, just let him get his own people, and walked off. Well, that teed off this guy, and I'm not really sure how long it took him to come and tell me what was going on, but he ended up quitting that church because of that. That was I don't know, he just, in a way I can't blame him, because no one was stepping up to help out. And I wasn't going to ask for it, because that's just not me. I'd rather help somebody than, ask for help. Even like now, working, on the house to get it up and going so I can get it sold. I want out of the house. I want something smaller. I want, just to get away from, I don't want to get rid of my memories. I just want away from this area right here, and just like get a new start. But there's no one there. So I've been kind of checking into different churches. And if you see somebody else doing this, you might want to question why. And maybe go talk to that person, because they need help. And if you know someone where the spouse just passed away, go help that person. See if they need at least someone to talk to. Go see if they need some food. Actually, I wouldn't even see if they need food. Just take them food. Because they may be the type of person, oh, no, I'm fine, I'll be all right, I'm good. Maybe not. I would ask. I would talk to them. Because I'm sure they need help. If nothing else, somebody to talk to. Because if family members are going through the same thing, then it's going to be hard for family members to talk with each other. You know, just to get things out in the open, just to, unload. So be there. If you're going to be a true Christ follower, be there for other people. Even if you don't know someone, you can still acknowledge them. This young man that borrowed this light and brought it back, that was a great feeling. But not just that. When he said, I've got something else for you, and I'm thinking, this is all I loaned you. And then he turns around with the food and hands it to you. You don't know how good that felt. So what can we do as a Christian do for others, knowing how good that felt? How good can we make somebody feel? Can you make somebody feel good by helping them? Because if they're a true Christian, they will accept it. And they're going to feel good knowing that somebody out there actually has good integrity. Somebody out there actually cares. Now, there's going to be people that aren't Christians that need help. And this is a good way to witness to others by being there for them. It could be a neighbor 2, 3, 4 doors down from where you live, maybe a mile down the road, and you know they're going through a tough time. Why not be there for them? You may not know them, but you can sure get to know them. And if they're going to be a hard-nosed, well, you can just say something polite and say, if you change your mind, you need somebody to talk to, I'm just right down the road. And then leave. Because if you're not arguing back with them and you walk off, they settle their brain down where they can think straight, and they just realize what you were just trying to do. What kind of example did you just set? So, if we're going to be true followers, then we need to share our heart with others. And if we do that, not only do you feel good, but you made somebody else feel good as well. God bless.